It's time for Jive for
Whoop, whoop.
25 this week.
Oh, whoa.
We got a big table with a big sale going on.
All right. 25% off hydrangeas?
25% off hydrangeas.
I may have
We're
to
back
take
in the
this
70s, folks. Check out these shirts.
That's right. Wonka wah.
Were you even around in the 70s?
I was born in 1970.
Okay.
I was conceived during Woodstock.
All right. That explains it. All right, let's get back to our sale.
All right, we're back. We digress, Brenda.
All right, we're going to 25% off all hydrangeas in stock this week through next Friday.
Yep. Great opportunity.
And we have a little bit of everything. Not some of the hydrangeas we don't have big numbers on, so get here early.
Yep.
They're all looking great. They're nice and
Yes.
full. Now's the time to plant them. They let them get that watering through the winter months.
Yes.
While they're going dormant, and also they're nice and full. A lot of times in the springtime, hydrangeas are kind of late for us. It's hard for us to get them early, like March, April. They're usually not available until May, and if they are available in April, they're a small young crop. Well, this crop is nice and mature.
Yep.
Some nice big plants. And you know what? Everything's going up in prices, so probably the hydrangeas will be going up in prices next year too.
Exactly. And you know, this is a great addition to any landscape. They come in all shapes and sizes, long extended blooms. So this is a great shrub to add to your landscape if you don't have one, or add more if you have them.
And you can never have too many.
No,
hydrangeas.
I love them. I have them everywhere.
And the only negative thing about hydrangeas, and we forgot to bring out, our set designer screwed up again. We forgot to bring out the plant skin.
Oh yes, the deer.
Yeah,
Yep,
the deer do like hydrangeas.
Yep.
There's really not one that they stay away from. But I have had great success in my customers, in previous years, my customers' yards, spraying the hydrangeas early.
Yeah.
You get them early, they will stay away from them. I did one actually late a couple years ago, a paniculata, and I sprayed it in May, and it got blooms later in the season, so
Wonderful.
It did great for it, pushed off new growth.
Well, and that plant skin is rain proof, so you know, and kind of once they pass through an area and something turns them off, you know, they tend to kind of keep going and go away. So
On the greener pastures and
Yeah.
your neighbor's roses or something. You know, so do a nice little perimeter. I mean, they do have granulars in the big bags that they do recommend early in the season before anything starts coming up to kind of put it around your perimeter of
Yeah.
your property, and that helps keeps them away too.
yeah, because they're foraging and looking and kind of making out where they're going to go to where the Walmart smorgasbord is.
Yeah. So let's get started.
Cool.
I'm going to get started with the oak leaf hydrangea, and our first one here is the munchkin. Right. This hydrangea likes morning sun, afternoon shade. It can take a little more shade than some other hydrangeas. Have you had any success with it in the full shade?
All of my oak leaves are in pretty full shade, little bit of dappled sun, and they do great.
Right. So it's a great one. There's a lot of different sizes. There's the munchkin, the peewee, the Sykes dwarf. Those are all lower growing. The ruby slippers is 4 to 5, and then there's also the native one that gets 6 to 8 feet by 6 to 8 feet, and it does spread and seeds.
Yes.
So if you want a nice crop of oak leaf hydrangeas sort of as a backdrop, get yourself a native hydrangea, and it will seed and spread.
Let it naturalize. Yep.
This hydrangea, you want to prune it if necessary right after it's done blooming.
Yeah.
So don't, you wait too long, you won't have blooms in the spring. This is one of the first ones.
Yeah, and this is one of the exceptions to the rule with pruning, don't you think? This one and the old blue hydrangeas bloom on old wood.
Yep, so this blooms on old wood, and you want to prune this right after it's done blooming if it needs it. Right? And so what I like to do, if I have a big hydrangea and it's sending up all these new shoots and stuff, right after that flower is starting to dry, I'll cut it down, and that might be the 1st of August.
Right.
Just to make sure I'm in check with it, kind of keep it in the nice shape that it has, because it will send off some new shoots here and there.
Yes.
So make sure and prune it. Don't be afraid when you got the blossom. Just cut it down a little bit farther down the stem, and that will help prune it that way.
Yep. Right? Yep. Good advice.
And what do we like to do?
Always
start
it with your biotone. Don't forget, put this under everything you put in the ground, especially hydrangeas. Brenda and I have been talking this morning about it. A lot of the hydrangeas are heavy rooters, like the paniculatas and the macrophyllas are heavy rooters on the top of the surface. So you really want to get your plant established with your biotone. Make sure you touch
for a 3-gallon plant,
Yep.
which these all
Yep.
are that we're showing you.
Yep.
The other thing that I wanted to mention with the oak leaf, it does need good drainage in the winter.
Yes.
And it, to me, is one of the hydrangeas that's a little more drought tolerant.
Yep,
Have you
yep.
found that?
Yeah, I have, because mine are under big trees. It's a dry situation, and they do great.
Yeah, so they're a little more drought tolerant. A negative thing is they will get, from overhead watering, they will get some leaf spots on them. And that's what this is. It's just a cosmetic thing. It's not going to kill the plant. The new growth won't have it. So when you're watering, try to water all these hydrangeas at the base.
Yes, good advice again.
One down.
One down.
The next one is,
Everybody's favorite.
I know. And they're coming out with new ones every year.
Oh,
Every
so
year.
there's so much hydrangea research going on.
So that hydrangea that I just showed you, our oak leaves are $28.
Yep.
28. The Endless Summer series costs a little bit more. They're $32, but they're also 25% off this week. And look
They're
how full
worth
this
it.
one is.
Oh, they're worth it.
This is not going to bloom this season. I don't think it's going to make it before the frost.
Yeah,
but
I think
it's a
it's
gorgeous
getting a little
plant.
late.
You will not see this in the springtime. Something this
No,
large.
no, now's the time to get it.
And this is the original. So this is the first one that they've come out with. This can be blue or pink, depending on your soil.
Yep.
And here it's always
Always blue. We run acidic. And let's talk about the Endless Summer series. What makes it different from the old standard blue hydrangea?
it blooms on both new wood and old wood.
Yes,
And that's-
finally.
I know that's the lifesaver for all of us here because we warm up so quickly. Sometimes it's January or February. We'll get 2 or 3 weeks of 70 degrees. All the buds will start swelling and popping up, and then March comes, the first or second week of March, and zap. Hydrangeas. The old-fashioned hydrangeas are history. All you're going to see is foliage.
Yes, yeah, and it frustrated so many people for so long because, you know, they would say, why didn't my hydrangea bloom? Well, that late frost. But now, with the Endless Summer series, they bloom on new and old wood, and that just really has taken us up, elevated our ability to grow hydrangeas here in our climate.
Right. So what we have is we have a few of the originals, then we have one bloom struck, we have one Summer Crush, which is a new one they developed last fall, and that one is a 3x3, same thing as the Endless Summer as far as the round blossom, but it only gets 3x3, so it's great for smaller gardens, smaller container gardens.
Yeah.
All right, that. And then as far as fertilizing,
So we recommend, fertilize in the spring before everything starts breaking again, March-ish. You kind of have to read the weather. So you can either go with a flower tone or you can do the rose tone. So there's a couple of options depending on what you have. And about a cup around the drip line in the spring. Some people will recommend fertilizing in the fall. You can hold off on that. You don't have to fertilize much. And the truth is, with mine, I really don't fertilize at all, and I've not had an issue. But if you like to fertilize all your shrubs, do it in the spring, but just lay off. Don't fertilize them every week because that can keep them from blooming. They'll push a lot of growth, but they won't produce that flower bud, okay?
right, a lot of times people come in, why isn't my hydrangea blooming?
Yeah.
One reason, got hit by frost,
Yes.
which isn't the case for the Endless Summer series and
Right,
a lot of the
not
new and old
anymore.
one.
Yep.
Another one is over-fertilization,
Yes.
which a lot of people don't know that. That's kind of shocking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put that Miracle Grow liquid fertilizer on this, you're eventually going to burn your roots
Yes.
and add a lot of salt to your soil, which is not going to make this plant happy in the long run.
Right, right. And you want to promote flowers. A lot of fertilization promotes green growth. And when a plant is happy and it keeps growing, they produce flowers to produce seed because they want to procreate their species. So it's a little bit of plant psychology there that you have to think about.
Right. And they like good drainage.
Yes.
The macrophylla need more water,
Yes.
a little more moist soil. And what kind of sun do they like?
Well, morning sun is optimal here and afternoon shade. And that's one thing we wanted to talk to you about. We call it being a plant tag detective. So read your plant tag, learn how to read it. A lot of our plants will come with tags. They're printed in a few places in the United States, and it'll say zone 3 to zone 9. Okay, that's a big zone. Zone 3 would be very cold. We're in zone 7. In 3, a plant could take more sun than it can here in the south. So if you have a plant that is can grow from like a 3 to an 8, and it says full sun. You know that's probably up north where their growing season is shorter, the sun is not as intense as it is here in the south. So for the macrophyllas, a few hours of morning sun, but then do give them protection from that hot afternoon sun.
Right, and if this type of hydrangea is wilting in the afternoon, that doesn't necessarily mean it's too much water. It needs more water. It means that it's too hot and it's just suffering a little bit from the heat, like all of us do.
It's a defense mechanism. The valves for release of moisture and air are on the back of the leaf, and so when a plant wilts down, it is simply just keeping wind from blowing over that stomata, they're called. It's the little openings. So if you see your plants wilting, check your soil for moisture before you water. They may be moist, but that's just the plant protecting itself.
Right, because you can overwater these. I've
Yes.
seen it done before.
Yep.
The other thing is, what I like to tell people, if it's wilting in the afternoon, don't water it. Wait till the morning, and if it's still wilting in the morning, then it needs to be watered.
That's good advice.
And then water it at the base. If you get water on the leaves and the sun hits those leaves, it will produce a black spot, which will eventually become a hole in your plant.
Yes,
Hole
good
in
advice. Yep.
Is there anything more to talk about these? About pruning in the spring? We don't recommend pruning these in the fall.
No.
I mean, you can cut off the blossom, bring it in, let it dry. You know, and if you're pruning it in August with that blossom, you can cut it down a little bit if it needs to be pruned. But if it really needs to be pruned, it's probably in the wrong spot.
Right.
As Kate mentioned earlier to me.
Yep.
It's probably in the wrong spot. But in the springtime is a time to prune it. Wait till those buds swell up and you can see where the flowers are going to be produced.
Yeah, and these kind of tend to be late. You know, so a lot of times it'll look dead. And a lot of people will go ahead and prune, but then if you wait, the buds swell. So give it a minute before you prune.
Right, and always you can scrape the stem. If it's green, do not cut it.
Yep.
It's
It's
viable.
green, it's good to go.
That's right. If it snaps, it's dead.
Right.
All right, and so is that good with this one?
Yeah, I think we're good on that. Let's move on. We got some awesome ones. Who's that over there? That's a proven winner.
I know, this one snuck in here. It was
I
supposed
know.
to be a different one. All right, but hey, we're going with it.
We're going for it. That's a pretty one.
So this is the tough stuff. This is another hydrangea that's new by proven winners. And if you look at this label,
It's more of a lace cap look, isn't it?
right, this 2 to 3 feet tall and 2 to 4 feet wide, sun or part shade. So, and the zone is 5 to 9. So here's one of the labels, which, you know, I had a customer said, well, the label said full sun, so he went home and planted it in full sun, came back a month later, and the plant was not looking so great. It wasn't dead yet, but it wasn't looking great.
Right.
We trimmed it up and told him to move the plant. But, so this needs to have morning sun, afternoon shade. This is a lace cap, and see how red that is, and how a pinky red? It's not going to stay that way.
No.
It's not going to happen.
We wish, but no, we have a hard time keeping pink hydrangeas pink here because of our acidic soil.
So a lot of times when you're buying hydrangeas in the garden center, they'll come in pink, you know, the big pink balls, and that's just because of the soil they're planted in and the water that they're using, at the nursery.
Right, exactly, right.
And we just thought of this, that if you really, really want a pink hydrangea, which is from the macrophylla series, is to plant it in a container.
Yeah, and then you can lime your soil and, you know, adjust your pH.
And see how that works. You're not going to be in our acidic soil, so to speak. We just use some container mix and put some lime around it and see what happens. It's kind of an experiment I'm going to do next year.
Rusty nails. I know a lot of people, did you ever hear that one? Put rusty nails in, but just don't dig with it.
Are we putting banana peels there too?
Well, you know.
I've heard that one. Coffee grounds.
Coffee grounds.
Makes it acidic, right?
That does make it acidic.
Okay. All right. Has your grandma written that book yet? All right. So that's the Tough Stuff series, and that's a new one on the market. There's Tough Stuff, Tough Stuff Tiny, Tough Stuff Red.
Yep.
So there's lots of tough stuff out there.
Yeah. Including me and you.
That's right.
All right. Who else do we have
All right.
here?
The one I want to mention, which
I'm
I thought
hiding
this
over
one,
here, Brenda. I'm in
All right.
the bushes.
So we're going to pretend this is something else.
Okay.
It was in the wrong spot when I grabbed it. All right. So this is a new hydrangea. It's from Proven Winners. It's the Incrediball.
Oh.
And Joanne had this earlier in the season.
Yes.
We filmed it. We did a filming video at Joanne's house and showed her Incrediball hydrangea. It's just like the Annabelle, very similar and related to the Annabelle, except for it has sturdier stems. So when it gets that foot across, at least a foot across blossom, all right, it's going to stay sturdy. It's not going to be, the weight is not going to topple it over.
Right.
And it's a beautiful hydrangea.
Beautiful.
It gets a little bit bigger than Annabelle. It's 5 by 5, and I think we have about 3 or 4 of those for $28.
Oh, wow.
So that's still a good price on those. And it looks just like this. It's very healthy. It's tall. Has great green growth on it. And that is from what family? The arborescens?
Arborescens. Yeah.
Arborescens family. So Annabelle's and the Incrediball, the mini mauvettes, and the wee whites. All those are the arborescens, and those get pruned in the spring.
Yes.
You know, it's a little bit different. Their leaf is a little bit different, and we can explain that to you if you have any hydrangea questions, because it's very confusing, especially if you're new to the game.
Yes.
It's very confusing. So before you pull out those clippers, just come and see us, and we'll let you know when to do it and how to do it.
Right. Yeah. Good advice.
All right. What's on your side, young lady?
All righty. So this is the Strawberry Sundae. So now we're going into the paniculatas. Okay, we're leaving macrophylla land. So these
we're going into the sunland.
That's right. These are the sun-loving hydrangeas, and these need at least 6 hours of sun. Wouldn't you say, Brenda? I have some in partial shade, and they do okay.
But they kind of go like this.
Yeah, the ones in full sun do so well. So this is a great one. This one does have a very vast root system, and Brenda was telling me so they're good for like bank stabilization.
I used to plant tons of paniculatas on slopes. It's really a nice deep root system that spreads.
Yes.
It holds that ground slope, and you really only have to visit them once a season, and that's in the spring if you want to prune them. Especially if they get a little bit taller, I recommend, so they're not so leggy.
Yeah.
You know, so the blooms are spread out a little bit more. But you only have to visit that site just once in the season.
Right.
And that's to prune them. You leave them around the rest of the season. They're good to go.
And a lot of people love the paniculatas because these are the ones they'll dry for the fall arrangements. Like when we did our hydrangeas the other day, a lot of those were paniculatas. So these bloom on new wood. So like Brenda was saying, prune them in the spring if you choose to. But don't prune them heavy, right? Because that can make them weak, and then that's when you'll see them flop a lot.
Right, because it's almost like when people do crepe myrtle, when they take their crepe myrtle and cut it way down. So what that does, it promotes a lot of fast new growth and a heavy blossom on there.
Yes.
It promotes a bigger blossom, which always droops down. The same thing with the hydrangeas. Now, if you have old ones and they're just not producing that great, you can go ahead and you can cut them way down.
Yes.
You can cut them way down, revitalize them. It's going to have weak growth at first.
Yes.
Right? And then you can trim them, but then next season they'll have stronger stems. So it's recommended to prune maybe about a third of them. If it's a new hydrangea you just put in this year, you might want to just nip it a little bit, because what you're doing is you're getting these stems to age a little bit, get a little bit more girth on them, so they're sturdier and can hold up the top of the plant.
Exactly. All right, so a couple of varieties. This is Strawberry Sundae. This is a dwarf vanilla strawberry. So this one's like 3 to 5 by 3 to 5. This would be great in a container.
Right.
As long as it's big enough. You got to put these in a big container.
And it gets a beautiful pure white blossom like the vanilla strawberry. And then if it gets some good sun, it really does deepen to a deep rose color.
And these have been so popular. So this has been, we have a vanilla strawberry up here? No, do we not have any? Are we out?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So for the vanilla strawberries, but come get one next year. They're gorgeous. So this is another of the paniculatas. This is one that I have, Pinky Winky. So this is not going to be that big full bloom that you're thinking of, like with the limelight or the vanilla strawberry. This is kind of more of an open panicle, I call it, but has great color. Now mine are turning that rosy pink, and the stem is this red. So it's just a striking plant. Holds up well. I prune mine about every 3 years to kind of keep it in check, but it's just a beautiful addition to my
Right,
garden.
it's sort of a lacy bloom, I like to describe it.
Yeah,
A little more
and this one
soft.
can get like 6 to 8 tall and wide. So this is a larger one. And then one of the most popular that we have had. Whoop, turn that around. This is Limelight, everybody's favorite. This can create those huge, large, they're kind of a chartreusey green, then they turn to white, and then they'll age out to pink. There's also a dwarf version that I don't know if we have.
We don't have any left.
Little Lime is the dwarf of these. But yeah, these are great. If you have sun, I know people put them down their driveway. This is a beautiful
Right,
plant.
it's sort of the, I think it was called PGs, were the old-fashioned ones.
Yes.
Which are very, very, you saw them on old estates and
Yeah.
stuff. They're very, very hard to, I don't
Or
know if
Tardiva was an older one.
it's hard to get a hold of right
Yeah.
now. So this kind of has taken the place, I think, of the PG.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same type florets on it and stuff.
Yep.
But extremely popular, very, very easy to grow. And as I was saying, great bank stabilizer.
Oh, they're beautiful. And you just get a lot of wear and tear. The bloom lasts so long, so it's really worth.
And I usually wait, as I was mentioning, I usually wait to prune these until early spring when they're first starting to show, sprout out those green buds on the sides. And the reason I do that is because we've had so many Januaries and Februaries here that 70, 75 degrees. I mean, the rose buds are swelling, they're leafing out. And if you prune this in November, December, and then it starts leafing out because of all that warm weather, then the frost comes, because it's going to happen.
Right.
It's going to kill all those buds, and then you have no place else to prune it.
Right.
You can't prune it down anymore because you've pruned it.
Yeah,
So,
I
I usually
agree.
wait. I usually wait.
I do very little. I don't prune much in the fall at all
I don't.
here. It's too iffy.
The only time we prune.
It's when we're getting ready for Christmas.
And there's little evergreens here and there.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit. Just a little nip and tuck. All right, one more we wanted to show you, and we put it in this container. It's not planted. We just kind of set it in here. This is the Bobo. This one has been so popular. This is also a dwarf paniculata, so appropriate for either a container or in a small garden. This one about 3-ish by 3-ish. Nice strong stems. You can see the color on the stem, and this will have the white. It's like a little line, but it doesn't come out green, so it's that full head again. And we do recommend, these have buds on them, so we'll see if they make it through frost. But if you are going to put it in a container like we talked about, make sure it's large enough. You don't want to put these in a tiny container. And we've had a lot of questions because everybody's kind of getting ready for their containers right now. So if you're going to do this in a container, just make sure it has enough room for the roots to grow so you can keep it adequately moist, watered, maybe put a little bit of mulch on top to help retain that moisture.
And this is hardy. These are hardy to zone 3, which is Canada.
Yeah, like your hometown, right?
Somewhere like that. So they're extremely hardy. And when you're putting something in a container, it's recommended that it's at least 2 zones colder. So if we're in zone 7, so zone 5s are great in containers. Zone 6 might be a little iffy depending on where you're siting the container, how big the container is to insulate the roots. Zone 7 is like you're taking a chance.
You're taking a chance, yeah. But this one's nice because it is deciduous and you don't have to worry about the winter wind as much.
Right, and what you can do with this, because I planted a lot of these in containers, you can take some white pine, cut white pines, fluff it up around there, and so then it's evergreen in the wintertime for you.
See, perfect. There you go. Put a little lights on it and call it Christmas. All right, Brenda. Well, we haven't talked in a few weeks, and we just talked our heads off today, didn't we? That was so fun. It's good to see everybody again.
All right, just remember we did get a great shipment of pansies in, and a few more cabbages. The mums are gone.
Yep.
Mum season
Come
is out
get your
here.
pansies today, though, because it's going to be raining, so we're going to put them up and keep them dry for the weekend, because we've got another hurricane heading our way.
And hopefully,
Hopefully. We're going to do a little flood prep, though. So come see us. Come keep us company today.
All
Don't
right.
forget, Hydrangeas 25% off starting today until next Friday. All right. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
See you next week.